So this video is going to be about displacing the melody. Now, if you've seen my video on improvising around the melody, you'll know that a really good way to create a strong solo is to use the melody as a bass and to just play around with the melody by changing notes, by changing the rhythm, by putting in the little embellishments, to make the melody sound a bit more interesting and a bit more like a solo, but still having that reference point of the melody sitting there at the back, grounding the whole thing. Now, as you're improvising around the melody, so changing the pitch, changing the rhythm, putting in little ornamentals, you can also displace the melody. That is, take a particular melodic line and put it somewhere else in the song. Whether it's sort of slowing it down so that it lags behind the chord progression, or speeding it up so that it's ahead of the chord progression, or just moving it to a completely unrelated different part of the song. Now, this is a good way to build tension because you're still playing the melody, so it's still very recognizable to the listener. But because you've moved it to a different place in the chord progression, it sounds unexpected and strange, and chances are the notes you're playing won't exactly harmonically line up with the chord that you're currently on. So it'll create some like off notes or some strange intervals or things like that. So it can create tension. And then to resolve that tension, all you have to do is slip back into the correct melody or the melodic line that should be over that particular chord in the chord progression. So I'll go through an example so that everything I just said makes sense to you. Now let's take the song Georgia on My Mind, just the sort of section A, the first section of the song. Now if you play it properly, correctly, without displacing the melody, it sounds like this. So it's a lovely song, but what would happen if you push that melody forward or bring it sort of to the earlier chords in the chord progression? Not necessarily by playing faster. I'm not saying you're changing the tempo of the melody, but if you've got, say, a long note or a long rest, you can get rid of it and just play the next melody note or line straight away. And so you're sort of 2 beats early. You're playing the whole melody a little bit early. So pushing the melody of Georgia on My Mind forward, you could get something like this. So that still sounded quite nice. It was still quite clearly the melody of Georgia on My Mind. But something strange was happening and some of the notes didn't quite fit. So that sort of ambiguity and strangeness created a little bit of tension before at the very end I resolved it again by sort of slipping back into time into the correct melody. So the way I did that was, instead of playing and sitting on that note, and then sitting on this note, which is what the melody sort of, if you have a look at it, actually says, I shortened that first C note and went. And now I'm ahead of the beat. I'm still playing the melody sort of at the same tempo, but because I've shortened that C note, the whole melody has moved a couple beats forward. To this bit, the melody goes, but so I'm playing the B flat, but I'm playing the F major 7 chord in my left hand, so I'm creating a bit of tension. That's sort of a wrong note. The actual chord is G minor 7 over that note if I were playing the melody correctly, but because I've pushed it forward, I've pushed that note onto an earlier chord, and it just so happened to have landed on the F major 7, which sounds like a wrong note, but because I'm still playing the melody, it sort of resolves nicely. Now to bring it back into line, I sat on that C note longer, whereas in the actual lead sheet you're only supposed to sit on it for a bar before doing. Because I've pushed the whole melody forward, I got to it a bar early, so I sat on it for 2 bars, and then I fell straight back into the melody. And just like I pushed that whole melody forward, you can also push it back to create sort of a similar effect, but the other way. Right, so that time I pushed the melody back. I went and sat on this note for a little bit too long. And now I'm a few beats behind. And now this little section sounds like I'm playing sort of wrong notes because the melody over the different chords sounds a bit off, sounds a bit wacky. In the actual melody, I'm supposed to sit on that note for a whole bar. Because I've pushed the whole melody back, it's essentially just a beat, and to get back into the correct timing of it all, I just play it quickly and then straight back into the actual melody line. Cool, so when you're improvising, you can play around with those ideas. And like I said, it sounds good because you can still hear that melody, so the listener can still has that point of reference. It's just moved somewhere else in the chord progression. Whether you, again, push it forward or push it back, or even move it to just a completely different part of the song. Like if you've got an AABA section, you can play the B section over the A chord progression, or something like that. Just try whatever you like, whatever comes to mind, see how it sounds, and it could come out quite interesting and quite cool. Anyway, that's all I wanted to cover. Thanks for watching again, and see you guys.